folks, Chris here with the Crab Apple Cottage. I wanted to do a May garden tour, show you what's growing, show you what's new, and just kind of give you an update. So this is my front yard, and it's one of the very few patches of grass I have left in my yard. I got a couple arborvitae planted in the front, but eventually, probably not till fall or maybe next year, I'll be turning this entire front yard into an edible landscape. But here in the front, the only other things I have planted are these two Nanking bush cherries. So they're different than your typical cherry trees. They're a bush. The cherries are a little smaller, but we're going to try those out. This is the second year for those. They did not produce last year. I don't expect them to produce this year either. I just want them to keep growing healthy. All right, going into my backyard. A couple of new additions over here. Well, one new addition. I got these hostas. Again, these were a freebie from a friend. Hostas are edible. All varieties of hosta are edible. You can eat the young shoots, kind of like you eat asparagus. And my clematis is just really beautiful right now. Not edible as far as I know, but I really was looking for something to climb up the side of my garage and bring some beauty, and I think that's doing a good job. Okay, over here on the porch, I've got all kinds of things going on. Over here I've got some plants that I got from the local conservation district plant sale that I don't have a place for yet. I got 3 pawpaw trees, which I'm pretty excited about. I do have a spot for them, but I'm still prepping the ground, so I'll have those planted eventually. 2 more high bush cranberry that I don't have room for, so I'll probably give those to my parents. 2 elderberries. One of the elderberries I actually propagated from my elderberry bush, as well as a little boysenberry that I dug up from my surplus as well. Over here we've got an aronia berry, a persimmon, some spinach that actually overwintered. This little red raspberry that needs to be planted. Here I actually planted some store-bought poppy seeds, like the kind that you get in the spice department. They haven't done anything yet. We'll see what happens there. And these are elderberry cuttings that I stuck on the ground. We'll see if they do anything. If not, no big deal. Up here are my planter boxes where I've put annual greens. They haven't been doing a very good job. This is mosh. This spinach did not do anything, and then all of a sudden it started bolting. So that's kind of frustrating because I didn't even get a chance to really get any. Here's some lettuce, Paris Island lettuce, and some green salad bowl lettuce, which has not been doing anything. I did recently replant both of these lettuces, hoping I get something. Over here is my Meyer lemon tree. This I got last fall on clearance, and I had it inside all winter long, and it's got a bazillion little lemons on it. Well, I shouldn't say little, because some of these things are like super big and weighing down my tree, but they've been on there for months. So I was like, what is wrong with my lemon tree? Why are they not turning yellow? But apparently lemon trees take a really long time, like 6 to 9 months for the fruit to turn yellow. So that makes me feel a little bit better. Over here are some more type of tropical houseplants. I talk about those in another video, so I won't go over those, as well as some tomatoes that I need to transplant. Over here, I've got all kinds of things that I've started from seed or that I've transplanted into larger pots because I don't have a spot for them yet, that sort of thing. Got some kale growing in the back. But over here, I've got cinnamon ferns, I've got pine berries. Neither of them are doing anything yet. Cinnamon ferns are a questionable edible. Some online sources will say you can eat them, like ostrich ferns, like fiddlehead ferns. Others say you gotta cook them really well because they could be toxic. Others say don't eat them at all. But they were on clearance for like $1.36 for a pack of 2, so I did get 3 packs of those. Here are some more plants that, frankly, I ran out of room in my garden for, and so I just decided to start them in pots and see what they do, and then if I find a spot for them somewhere in the garden, I can transplant them. So I've got some sunflower seeds that I actually want to put along the front of my fence. I think that'll be really pretty. I got some amaranth. You can see my little baby amaranth plants there. Planted a few more pumpkins. Just kind of threw some things in, some turnips. Just wanted to see what would take. Got some rutabaga in here. And then I'm trying to get some of my perennial herbs, medicinal herbs started, like St. John's wort, calendula, and skullcap. So all of those are sprouting. Over here I've got some of my mints, some other seeds I'm trying to start. Got a random tomato. Over here is Perennial Arugula started in a pot there, as well as some mint. All my mints are in pots. I don't plant those in the ground because, as most people know, they can really take over. So this bed here, I'm in the process of transitioning to a perennial greens bed. So I got some catnip and Russian sage in there that are going to come out. My perennial arugula will go in here, as well as things like maybe Good King Henry, that sort of thing. I do have this Rumex raspberry dressing planted that's doing well. That's leafy green that you can eat. It tastes kind of like, it's kind of got a lemony flavor. If you've ever had wood sorrel, it's kind of like that flavor. This is my elderberry that's doing fantastic. That's the second year for the elderberry. So then the rest of this with the rock line paths is my perennial herb garden. Some of them are just flowers for pollinators. Some of them are culinary herbs, and some are perennial herbs. On this trellis here, I have a hardy kiwi planted, some lavender. I've got blueberries scattered in here. This trellis is my Himrod green grapes. That trellis back there is my Mars seedless purple grapes, and then the very back trellis I recently planted a wine grape. Over here, these are where a lot of my culinary herbs are. So thyme, sage, bee balm, fennel, sweet woodruff, chamomile, all kinds of things. I did throw some flowers in there recently, but I'm really happy with everything growing in here. I have a serviceberry tree in there as well. So what I'm noticing is that I need more early blooming perennials for my pollinators. So I've got to look out for some more perennials that'll bloom early on. I do have these columbines, but I'm going to need something else. Over here we've got some yarrow, some silver mountain artemisia or wormwood. We've got some anise hyssop, some more lavender, a blueberry, horehound, which is making lots of little babies that I can dig up and give away. Lots of babies down there. Chives, garlic chives. These chive flowers, I recently found out that you can take the chive flowers and put them in vinegar and create a a chive flavored vinegar that you can turn into like a vinaigrette salad dressing. So I'm going to give that a shot. I think that'll be fun. Over here I've got some things that I planted pretty recently. Some rhubarb that I planted this year, and these beautiful dianthus. I got those on clearance at the end of the year last year. I think those are so pretty. Over here I have a very beautiful large catmint plant that the pollinators have just been loving, as well as some coneflowers and Shasta daisies. So a lot of these areas, they're still filling in. I've moved things around this spring, some things that were in different places, I've moved them around. I'm kind of still watching to see what's blooming, what's spreading, what's doing what, and I'll be adding to things as I get them. As you saw before, I was planting some seeds from a variety of perennial herbs that are medicinal. So once those mature, I will transplant these into the beds as well. Over here is my rain barrel. I don't have it hooked up yet. It'll be somewhere in this general location. I'm not 100% sure where. This bed over here had asparagus in it that I planted 2 years ago, but I wasn't really happy with the location, so I recently dug it up and moved it into the bed with my other asparagus. This is where I'm going to put my dappled willow tree, right by my bedroom window. I think it'll be beautiful. The willow tree will give me natural aspirin, and I think it's just going to be a nice focal point over here. Again, here are those grapes that I told you about, the wine grapes. I can't pronounce this. Frontenac Gris grape. It's a blush, makes like a blush wine. So I got those recently. They haven't broken bud yet. Alright, so this section, I'm going to do a whole video on my orchard section, but basically I've got like 18 fruit trees, I think, something like that, as well as lots of actually fruit-bearing bushes, like goji berry and gooseberry, currants, that sort of thing. And then this whole bed here I planted with strawberries. I'll do a separate video on this because I'm still doing some work on this. Once I get it to where I want it, I will do a video. Over here are my boysenberries that I'm going to be moving. I was going to move them to the back of the yard, but they're starting to flower, so I might wait until they've produced their berries for this year and then move them. Same thing with these blackberries. I want to move those, and you can see why, right? They take up so much space, and they're really just out of control, and I don't want these towards the front of my garden. I think they'll be better served in the back of my garden. So these are going to come out, and then I'm going to put more raised beds here. So I'll be able to get a whole nother line of 3 raised beds in this area once I remove my blackberries, my raspberries, and my boysenberries. So let's see. This side has got a variety of cole crops. I've got some Egyptian walking onions that are doing well. This has got turnips, rutabaga, and parsnips in it. The parsnips don't seem to be doing a whole lot. A lot of these didn't come up, so we'll see. Here are my shelling peas on the trellis. Got shelling peas on both sides. This bed is full of potatoes. In this bed with my carrots, I wanted to show you something. I've got carrots in the middle. I also have growing here, if I can get to it, some purslane, which is an edible, a wild edible. You can use it in salads. So I've got that actually in a few of my beds, and I'm letting that grow. I also have here some volunteer tomatoes. You can see them sort of scattered in the bed. This is the third year for this bed for tomatoes. In fact, look at this, guys. This is insane. Look at all these baby tomato plants. There's like 100 tomato plants. And what happened was, 2 years ago, I planted a cherry tomato. Actually, I think it was like a grape tomato. I can't remember the variety, Marglobe maybe. And it got huge. It filled, one tomato plant filled this entire bed. It was just out of control. And I harvested lots and lots of tomatoes, made tomato sauce, tomato juice. I dehydrated the peels and seeds and made tomato powder. The following year, I planted another tomato plant there, but it got quickly overwhelmed by all of the volunteer tomato plants that came through. So this last year with all those volunteer tomato plants, I harvested again as many as I could, but towards, when it started getting cold, I just let them rot on the vines, basically. And you can see where the tomato vines spilled over into the paths and just sowed hundreds of baby tomato plants. So I've been selectively getting rid of some of them in the bed so that the strongest ones can grow, but I might try digging some up and planting them other places, giving them away to friends, that sort of thing. I even have some in this bed over here, which I didn't even plant tomatoes in. But the tomato plant, the volunteer plant from last year, was so big that it spilled out and hung out over this path. I could barely get through this path. So tons and tons of tomatoes again. That's why I only have, I think, 4 tomato plants planted elsewhere in the garden, because I know that I'm going to get hundreds of tomatoes from my volunteers. Over here, another bed of potatoes, as well as a bed of onions. These are sugar snap peas on this trellis. Here's my strawberry bed that I originally started with last year. I think I'm going to relocate these over to the orchard so that I have this raised bed for annual vegetables. I think that's going to be a better option for me. I do have a couple of large tubs full of potatoes as well. This is my asparagus bed. I didn't harvest a ton of asparagus this year because it's only the second year for this asparagus, and I wanted to make sure it has the energy to keep establishing itself. This is where I transplanted the other asparagus into. Let's see, this bed has got bush beans, full of bush beans there, and I can't remember what I planted on the trellis. I think those are scarlet runner beans. I can't remember. Over here, I've got some tomatoes with melons planted at the corners. Over here, I've got 3 pepper plants and additional melons. I think these are watermelon, the other ones are cantaloupe. This is my popcorn bed. And like I said, I can't remember what are all of these trellises. I think these are zucchini or pumpkins on the trellises. I'll have to check my garden plan. I write it all down, it's inside, I just can't remember. Over here we've got some purple teepee bush beans, another variety of bush beans, zucchini along the trellis, and then these 2 little rows are a very special type of heirloom corn that was grown by the Lenape Indians, and I can't pronounce it. You can't buy this corn seed commercially, I got it from a seed swap at a outdoor museums conference that I went to. They were growing it in a Native American village, a reproduction of a Native American village, so I was pretty excited. I only got a tiny handful of the seeds, so I'm excited to see how they grow. They're a white dent corn, and they grow 16 feet tall. 16 feet! That's insane. So they're raccoon proof, obviously, because raccoons can't climb up 16-foot corn stalks. So pretty excited about those. However, I did make a mistake. Over here in this bed, I have my sweet corn right next to my special Lenape corn and really close to my popcorn bed. So the problem is, this is only my second year growing corn. I didn't realize that corn cross-pollinates and comes up with frankencorn. So if you plant 2 different varieties of corn in close proximity to each other, they will cross-pollinate, and neither variety will be true to what you planted. It'll be some sort of weird frankencorn. So I'm really discouraged about that because I was going to do seed saving with this Lenape corn. I'm hoping that the Lenape corn will, because it has to grow so tall, that maybe it will tassel at a later date than the sweet corn and the popcorn, and will still be okay, but we'll see. I'm kind of upset at myself for making that mistake. But like I said, last year I just planted one variety of sweet corn, and I didn't realize that corn does that. So gotta see how that's gonna turn out. I did want to show you something else over here. I forgot to mention on one of these trellises over here by my strawberry beds and my asparagus bed. See these little plants here growing along the trellis? You know what these are, guys? These are lentils. I planted these from a bean soup mix. I do show a video where I was separating out, I think I had like a 15 or 16 bean soup mix, and I separated out the different beans, and I was going to try to plant them. I didn't have room for most of the varieties, unfortunately, but I went ahead and planted the lentils because those are the beans that I prefer, and they're sprouting. So I'm really excited about this. I'm not really sure if a lentil is a climbing bean or a bush bean or what it is, but I put it by this trellis, so I've got it on both sides of this trellis. Got my little baby lentil plants, so pretty excited about that. Also noticed that I have a lot of weeds in my paths. I put down these free wood chips from a family member and who has a tree trimming service, and they just did not really kill the weeds. So the weeds have popped up, and they're really bad in these areas where these free wood chips are. You can see the difference in the area back here where I put the mulch that I got in bulk. There's the mulch back there, and I haven't had the same problem with weeds. I have occasional weeds, but I mean, you can see right there the edge how the wood chips have the weeds and the mulch does not. So I gotta figure out how to remedy that situation. Okay, so back here, this space where I've just started to plant, I'm putting in my berry canes. So this little, I gotta put the trellis up yet. I have a couple of the T-posts up, and I'm gonna be stringing some wire between them to make a trellis. This front line here that we're looking at right here are 3 fall gold yellow raspberries. Back there, those are loganberries, I believe. I think they're loganberries, I can't remember. And then I also have all those berries up front that I showed you that I'm going to be transplanting back here. So red raspberries, boysenberries, thornless blackberries, and I had some dewberries, some starts, but they have not sprouted or broken buds, so I think they're dead. But I'll figure out another variety to put back here. Eventually I'll have 6 different varieties of berry canes on trellises back here. And the spot where I have this soil left over from my beds, this is eventually where my greenhouse is going to go. Something else back here, I got all these rocks. I got these from somebody on Facebook Marketplace, or like a free posting on Facebook. They were getting rid of rocks in their flower beds. It's kind of funny, and I wanted rocks for my flower beds, and they were getting rid of theirs. So I was able to haul off a big stack of rocks, and I just pulled my car up here and dumped them out. I need to stack them up. I'll be continuing my paths along this way eventually, but right now they're just kind of a hot mess. And then over in this area where I have some cardboard, and I need to get out here and spread the rest of the mulch. The problem is it's just been so hot, and you know, you either have to do it early in the morning or late in the evening, and we've just been so busy in the evening. So hopefully today my son and I will get out here and spread some mulch. But this area back here is where I'm going to plant my 3 pawpaw trees that I got from the Conservation District, because they do like some shade when they're young. And then I'm also going to plant eventually a couple of hazelnut bushes and maybe my aronia berry. Hazelnut bushes can get pretty large, and you need 2 different varieties to produce nuts. So I will get 2 different cultivars. Don't really have the money for them right now, but I'm going to go ahead and prep the area where they're going to be. This is my crabapple tree. It's got lots of baby crabapples on it. And then around the tree, I have a mulberry plant that I have hacked away down to the base several times, and it keeps coming back, and I finally decided to stop fighting it. So I do need to trim it up, but it's got lots of baby mulberries on it. So I thought, you know, we'll just let it do its thing. I'll just try to keep it trimmed. I do like mulberries. They're not as sweet as, say, like black raspberries, but they usually fruit around the same time as my black raspberries. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll combine the black raspberries and the mulberries to make a cobbler or a crisp or a syrup or something like that. I am going to be putting my chicken coop in this area under the crabapple tree next to the mulberries, because eventually the crabapples and mulberries will fall and my chickens will be able to get them through their run. That's going to be my chicken coop eventually. So, yep, that's where we're at right now with the garden. Lots of stuff coming up. Really excited. I am a little concerned because I'm going to be going away on vacation for a couple of weeks next month, and I'm not sure how my garden's going to fare while I'm gone. I'm sure it will be a hot mess when I come home. I do have a friend who is going to stop by to check on my cat and to check on my garden. So hopefully she can keep things watered and alive long enough for me to get back and rescue everything. So that's what I got, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you later.